Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, see a documentary produced by ASU students that examines Saudi Arabian farming and water use in the Arizona desert. We'll follow that up with a discussion on the issue. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Angela Kocherga in for Ted Simons. Lawyers for Maricopa County Sheriff's Office candidate Paul Penzone today announced a defamation lawsuit against current Sheriff Joe Arpaio for what they're calling a campaign smear. Arpaio, a Republican, brought up an old allegation against his Democratic opponent, using an attack ad to accuse him of domestic violence against his ex-wife. Penzone's ex-wife says those allegations are not true. Penzone spoke about the allegations at an afternoon press conference, and an attorney for Arpaio held a news conference 1 hour later.
The sheriff recognizes that he's down in the polls considerably. He recognizes that my personnel file makes his look like a pamphlet. So he doesn't want to compete with me on the policing elements of this job. He won't debate me because he knows less about his own organization. I know far more. So he attacks my character with a lie.
The fact of the matter is, the Arpaio campaign has every right to look at police reports and court records to tell the public what they find in those records about Paul Penzone. The First Amendment doesn't protect politicians from criticism. It guarantees that citizens will have the right to find out information about politicians and share it with others, regardless of how tawdry that might be.
100 miles west of Phoenix, a Saudi Arabian-owned farming operation grows hay year-round in the desert using Arizona water. The hay is used to feed Saudi cattle. It's an issue examined by Arizona State University students from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication in a documentary called Camels Don't Fly, Deserts Don't Bloom. The documentary explores the issue of Saudi Arabian farming in La Paz County and how it affects groundwater supplies. After the documentary, we'll follow up with a discussion on the issue. But first, here is Camels Don't Fly, Deserts Don't Bloom.
So 15 minutes from now.
I know, so we can chit-chat now.
We're driving out west out of Phoenix on I-10, and all around us is just barren, arid desert. And as we come up over the top of the road, off in the distance, we see green fields. I mean, across almost the entire horizon, fields of alfalfa, hay, essentially, being grown right there in the desert.
I've lived in La Paz County for pretty much 10 years, but my family has lived here since the early 60s. There was a lot of agriculture activity back then. That's where a lot of families did have jobs back then. My grandparents moved here to help with cotton farms, and now other large farming companies, corporate farming, have been the major change. You know, it's changed the tapestry around here.
The largest dairy company in the Middle East is based in Saudi Arabia. It's El Morai, and that's the company that we found in the Arizona desert. When the Saudis bought the farm, there was a variety of crops being grown there. They converted it all to hay, essentially the most water-intensive crop they could convert it to. In a desert, you have sunshine and warm temperatures nearly all year long, meaning that you can be growing hay, compressing it, shipping it back to Saudi Arabia nearly 12 months of the year. The downside of that is it means that you're pumping water up from the aquifer for nearly 12 months of the year.
When we talk about aquifers, we're talking about these ancient reserves of water that have had a sort of shell above them, and they don't get extracted unless a very deep well is dug.
There were 15 groundwater wells on that property, each capable of pumping up about 1 billion gallons of water a year. But that wasn't enough. They've now applied for and received permits to put in 8 additional groundwater wells.
When we talk about non-recharging groundwater supplies, what we're really talking about typically in Arizona is either tapping into those fossil reserves that were put there tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, and they're not being recharged at all, or we're talking about withdrawing water that has been put there through more recent precipitation, but we take it out at a much faster rate than it's replenished because we just don't get that much rain here.
Good evening. The Middle East War produced developments all over the world today. The oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon. They will reduce oil production by 5% a month until the Israelis withdraw from occupied territories. If the Arab countries keep that pledge, it would reduce their production by almost 50% in 1 year.
1973, that was the year of the quadrupling of oil prices. It was the oil embargo. Saudis became concerned over retaliation by the West, retaliation against the steep increase in oil prices and the oil embargo through the boycott of foodstuffs. You boycotted us on oil, we're going to boycott you on wheat. Saudi Arabia launched the program to reach food independence.
The government began heavily subsidizing farmers and basically allowed these farmers to pump up Saudi Arabia's own groundwater. It got so expansive that they were actually exporting crops from this water-deprived, arid nation.
Saudi Arabia became the 6th largest wheat exporter in the world.
But that could only last so long. And after a few decades of it, their groundwater had depleted to a point where they realized that was it.
I estimated that in those 20 years, Saudi Arabia pumped out of its aquifers 300 billion cubic meters of water. There's little surprise here, therefore, that the government decided that no more, because the aquifers were ruined. They ran out of water in Saudi Arabia, so they come now to Arizona. There is no alternative. Al-Mara'i is an established company, deeply rooted in the country. It has 160,000 heads of cows, but it has to import now all its animal feed. On the one hand, I'm sympathetic to Al-Mara'i. On the other hand, I feel sorry for Arizona when they ship alfalfa. They're shipping their water away.
Most of La Paz County is not in a regulated area. What does that mean? It means that anybody can come in, drill a well of any size, and pump to any depth and pump as much as they want. And it doesn't matter if they affect existing users. That's what the law is. What La Paz County is worried about is that their groundwater supplies will be mined into extinction.
As groundwater gets depleted, the level of the groundwater table, the surface of that groundwater, is going to drop, and it'll get lower and lower and lower. And so if this is a well, it only goes down so deep. As the groundwater drops, at some point the well runs dry. So what happens is that people who have been there a long time, who have shallower wells, those wells have always worked for those people, eventually those wells can start running dry.
I'm just curious what they're going to kick the farmers out or what?
That's not the intent.
Well, I'm hearing that there's people from out of country that bought our property around here, growing the alfalfa, which takes more water than anything, especially in hot climate like this. They've already pumped their area in Saudi Arabia or wherever they're from, and now they're over here doing the same to our country.
I'm amazed that these large agricultural concerns were allowed to drill wells when the state had already seen we were having a problem here. The foreign entities that have bought land here and drilled wells and are pumping a lot of water out of the valley for a product that's being shipped out of the country.
The deeper pockets and the bigger agricultural interests will draw down the groundwater using deep, big wells, and they will dry up their neighbors' wells. So that's a problem, and that can lead to finger pointing and blame, and some of it very valid.
There's some sort of blame assigned to the local agricultural and farming community. And so, you know, those are fears, but we're not sure that those are well-grounded fears. But obviously there is an issue that people are dealing with, local residents who are seeing issues with their wells that they personally use. But whether or not it's up to agriculture or farming as being the culprit, I don't think that's the case.
We've had 2 wells go dry. In the last 4 years, we've lost 50 feet of water in our well.
I'm Mary Goodman. This is my husband, Bill. We moved here in 1999, purchased this property. And before that, we lived and worked in California. I was a registered nurse, and my husband Bill was a mechanic down in the harbor. We wanted a place where he could fly a small experimental airplane. We're really concerned about the water usage in the area. Wells are going dry all over the valley, and yet new ones are being put in. They've put alfalfa farms near us. It's just kind of scary.
We've had to replace 2 wells. This well had to be re-drilled. The well over there, we had to put a new well in. That well was probably over $20,000.
The new wells the farmers are putting in, usually they're at 1,000 feet, we've heard. They're going down to 11, 12, 1,300 feet now. If they're that deep and pulling water out, they can keep pulling it out. We're at 680 over here, rock bottom, and the water goes down below that, we have no water. We're retired and on a limited income, and what little savings we have are starting to disappear from having to do wells.
It's almost impossible to manage groundwater without some sort of regulation. And without that, I don't see a lot of hope for those areas, because there's very little a local entity can do to stop somebody from pumping groundwater when state law permits it.
I don't know what they're going to need to do on that. I sure don't want them to come and regulate the water I pump for my usage.
Will we be metered? Will we be subject to fees for minimal usage we may never meet?
They need some regulation on the water. I'm not sure how to do it, but I don't think it's right that people from another country can come over here and use our resources when they've depleted theirs.
I would urge you to put a moratorium on the amount of water and the amount of wells that they can drill in that area until we get this process resolved.
We mentioned today that we need to update our data, especially our agricultural data, see what the pumping levels are now. And you need the background data to make that model robust and make the results of that model meaningful. I
applaud the people that are doing the water studies, but if they're going to wait and have a 5-year study, I think by the time 5 years is up, there's going to be a definite water shortage in this area, more so than now. So I'm just not sure what's going to happen. Where can we go and have the lifestyle we have here?
But I think the reality that has hit us in the face is that someone with sufficient money can buy a large tract of land and set about withdrawing as much water as they want to grow crops at essentially the expense of people who were already in the community. The other major impact from groundwater withdrawals that people talk about is subsidence, where the land drops and there are cracks in the land.
Arizona, though, is unique. It doesn't just sink. Because of the geology there, it does something frankly remarkable. It creates fissures.
One big area that we did have an impact from subsidence is in the canal system. It's in the Scottsdale, Northeast Phoenix section. For many years before CEP started delivering water to the cities, Scottsdale and Phoenix had well fields over in that area, and they pumped a lot of groundwater for 20, 30 years as the population grew. So that, along with some other private wells, led to a kind of an isolated area of subsidence. About a 10-mile section of the canal lower dropped about a foot, foot and a half in some places. But what it did is it created a lower area where it impacted our conveyance capacity of water, and we reduced our capacity in the summertime when we had our large demands and we needed more water through the area. The cost probably about $3.5 million to $4 million to mitigate that. Subsidence is irreversible. So once it's settled and consolidated, you can't pump it back up and relift it. You can only just stop it and stabilize it at that point.
Let's take a look at Renegar's Plain. If the Renegar's Plain drops, the CAP has a potential to crack because it runs right through the Renegar's Plain. Talk about a loss. We need our drinking water. That is a priority.
They're pumping groundwater, which are, it's unregulated out in that area, and they can do as much as they want. We understand that. That's what they need to do for their farming operation. We're aware of it, and we're watching it, monitoring it.
There is a balance that needs to be struck. I think everyone agrees on that. I think the residents of La Paz agree that farming brings jobs, brings money into the county. It's a way of life for a lot of the people there. The question is, how long do they want the water to last?
We are surprised when we run out of water, but we shouldn't be. And we need to, as a culture, have an understanding that water sustainability is important. And I think that awareness and understanding is not there. We're running up against the limits of our existing water resources. So we're in uncharted territory.
I want to know the trees, the fruit trees that I'm planting today, for my future, I'm going to have water, and so I want to invest in my future and know that I'm going to be able to pick an orange from my tree if I want to 20 years from now or 30 years from now.
The question is Arizona making a decision for profits today in what will ultimately be a big loss for the residents there in the future?
Here now with more on the issue of groundwater rights and farming in Arizona is Sarah Porter, director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute for Public Policy. Kathleen Ferris, executive director of the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, and Cassie Ronda, the story editor for the documentary. Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. Let me start with you, Cassie. What inspired you to make this film?
Well, my classmates and I who produced this film, we entered our class this spring of this year, and our professor told us he'd recently heard of a story of broken by a reporter in California about a Saudi Arabian farming company buying land in the western Arizona desert. And through researching that, we started finding out about the lack of groundwater regulation in that area, and basically this land purchase had opened residents' eyes to the fact that their groundwater wasn't really regulated. So we followed this story from the initial land purchase to current town meetings being held there with Arizona Department of Water Resources, the residents' feelings about this new discovery, this new realization, and into their thoughts of where this could lead in the future.
So, Sarah, isn't Saudi Arabia taking advantage of existing water right issues and groundwater issues to get the water they want and need? Really anybody could come in and do what they're doing.
Yeah, and I would even refocus that a little and to say that a business that's based in Saudi Arabia is availing itself of the lack of regulation of groundwater in that part of Arizona so that it can go and do what businesses do, which is make money, basically.
A dairy farm company that growing alfalfa, which is a very water intensive crop. So what, Kathleen, can we really learn by looking at this problem that we're seeing in these rural areas with the groundwater issues? I mean, it's really a lack of regulation. Kind of backtrack and talk, how do we get to this point?
And just, I have to do this because I'm no longer executive director of the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, and I don't want anybody tuning in from there to think that I still think I'm director. I'm their legal counsel still.
Okay,
but
good.
So we got to this point because we passed a marvelous landmark piece of legislation in 1980 called the Groundwater Management Act, but it doesn't apply statewide. It applies only in the most populous area of the state where most of our water use takes place. But outside of those areas, there is no regulation on groundwater, and the reason it only applies where it does is that when we were holding public hearings around the state prior to adoption of the act, we were told basically by most of the people in rural areas to go away. They didn't want to have their groundwater uses regulated. So fast forward 36 years, and we have a number of areas of the state that are starting to experience problems with groundwater depletion. And now they're worried about their future.
So what are we seeing, Sarah, as far as, is this showing us that our rules in groundwater management is outdated? I mean, are we looking at something down the road where we'll need an actual market, or how do we manage the water in the Southwest? And is Arizona setting a good example or a bad example in this respect?
Well, I want to first commend Cassie and her team. I think it's a really good film for highlighting these issues, and I think very few people would know it was a student-made film watching it. It's very well done. And it brings out these really poignant issues. These are about people's homesteads, it's about their way of life, and about how they make their livings. So these are really fundamental issues. More to your question, the problem is that there is no regulation of groundwater. So in these areas, so it's the Wild West. People can mine out as much as they want, pretty much. And the solution, the only way to solve that problem is to regulate groundwater. What kind of regulations? I think would be a combination of what the community wants and decides. The communities really are the ones who have to figure out the problem. Combination of that, and then the great model we have in the Arizona Groundwater Management Act. That has worked very effectively since 1980. The places that are regulated have had some of the most impressive economic growth. We've sustained huge population growth, and we've done it with a really robust groundwater regulation system.
And Cassie, you can see, I mean, this is a very emotional issue. It really gets to the heart of people's livelihood, their ties to the land. After making this film, what is your impression? Are people there hopeful? Are they full of despair? Are they going to fight for their water rights? What do you think will happen next?
We found that people seemed very motivated, and this issue was actually bringing the community together. When ADWR held town hall meetings there, they were overwhelmed by the number of people who showed up. So I think it really is uniting a community, and because they're willing to fight, it shows that they do have some hope that there can be a resolution.
Some change. Lastly, looking ahead, I mean, you were able to plan for the management issues. Where do cities like Phoenix and Arizona and the competing needs of rural areas, how do we kind of all come together as a state and figure out how do we manage water and bring some of these unregulated rural areas into the fold?
Well, no two areas of the state are alike, and that's groundwater and water management is a really local issue. And we learned that when we drafted the 1980 Groundwater Management Act. So the same thing is happening right now. The Arizona Department of Water Resources, under the leadership of Governor Ducey, is holding these public hearings and these community meetings in the areas of the state where we have conflict over groundwater pumping. And they're trying to help the local people there understand, first of all, what their situation is, which is really important. There's a lot of fear, but not always a lot of facts. And the department has been collecting data, measuring wells, trying to really get a handle on what's really going on in these areas. Once people know the facts, then it's really going to be important for them to say, let's look long term. What do we want the future to be like? And that is really a community coming together sort of thing. I don't see the legislature forcing this on anybody without the support of the water users locally.
Well, all of you have contributed to the conversation and given us some really good facts, and we need more. So thank you all, and thank you for your film, Cassie. Thank you for being here. Friday on Arizona Horizon, it's Journalist Roundtable time. We take a look back at the first presidential debate, and we'll talk about Arizona, the Arizona Republic, endorsing Hillary Clinton, the first time ever the paper has endorsed a Democrat for the White House. That's on the next Journalist Roundtable. Back tomorrow, and have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.